What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the mods that have been unlocked for all Guardians on their characters. Now you can see Bungie gave us a little note that about your collections. They won't show up inside collections as completed or that you have them, but if you go to that piece of armor, you will have all of these mods unlocked. So like for me, you can see I don't have Warmind's Longevity. This was the only one that I didn't have in our combat style, but when I go to a void set of armor over here, you can see that I will have Warmind's Longevity in this last column over here. So you can see, bada boom, we have it. So don't worry about them not being in your collections. They're on your mod armor pieces for whatever burn that is. Now, since everybody has all of these mods unlocked, though, it changes the game of build making. So everybody has the chance to use all of these mods that us streamers and content creators have been putting out for the past couple of years without having to go to Ada every day to find that perfect mod. So I just wanted to kind of go over some of my favorite mods that I use, and definitely some essential ones that everybody should be running and kind of just be wary about when they're going into Destiny content. Starting off on our headpiece here, these three on top are definitely super important, with Hands On, Ashes to Assets, and then Dynamo as well, all helping out with super cooldown depending on if you're using your class ability, so dodge, rift, or your shield. And then grenades, same thing, you get energy back on grenade defeats and melee defeats. Super key for getting back that super and spamming depending on what you're going in for. Like Ashes to Assets with a Solar Warlock and fusion grenades is absolutely nasty, so you can have your well almost consistently when you're throwing on that with Starfire Protocol. Moving on to the arms, chests, there really isn't much. You can kind of go with these different resistances as your go-to for your chest pieces or your reserves. For your arms, definitely fastball I use on a lot of my builds, especially in PvP. Now you can go something like momentum transfer, causing damage with grenade, reduces melee. So again, something like a fusion grenade warlock or a Heart of Innermost Light Titan, you can utilize these, but also they're like a C tier kind of mod for me. They're helpful but not game changing in my opinion. The next one we kind of get to is in our legs that really help out in doing health, giving back your abilities, is picking up Orbs of Power with like Insulation, Invigoration, Innervation. Picking up those Orbs of Power grant you grenade cooldown, melee cooldown, and if you're using something on your head piece right here with your different siphons, creating a bunch of different orbs, it is very helpful for being able to spam your abilities. Plus, when you're going in those 6-man activities like raids, there's orbs everywhere, so these help a lot with spamming your grenades and abilities, and then also stuff like this that give you some health regen and being able to keep you alive better in that end game content. Moving on to the class item, a few that are very good. Bomber, again, grenade cooldown when using your class ability. Very nice for something like that Heart of Innermost Light Titan, or even something in your Void Grenade world for your Hunter, so you can keep dodging by going invis, get your grenade back a little bit faster. Distribution, also nice. It gives you all your ability cooldown when using your class ability near targets. So basically, these top four, maybe utility kickstart depending on what burn your armor is using this stasis slot. There are better stasis mods in my opinion, and you can kind of make up for it with these other three in the top right there. Now, before we get into these combat mods, which is really the go-to for all of the combat and just build crafting inside of Destiny, there really isn't anything in general. These are just your mobility, recovery, etc. And then legacy and raids, there really isn't nothing too crazy about this because you have to have raid armor to slot these mods, and they help, but they really are not essential at all unless you're doing challenges with like 3 people, stuff like that. That's when these kind of come into play. But for combat mods, this is where stuff starts to go crazy, and you can see we got 4 pages of these mods, and they really are all very helpful in their own way, but some of them are definitely S tier. So for that PvE realm that I use consistently and that I think are very S tier, so we have taking charge, picking up those Orbs of Power makes us charged with light. When we're charged with light, we can use high energy fire, which gives us a damage bonus to our weapons. Now, on the other hand of that, we have firepower, so when we're also charged with light, we can throw our grenade and we get back some of that grenade power just by throwing it, consuming that charged with light. Now, protective light is also very nice, not as strong as it used to be. We have other modes of staying alive, but if you have extra space on a void piece of armor when you're using charged with light, this definitely helps keep you alive when you get that critically wounded. Now you can go with stacks on stacks to keep up with multiple stacks of light. It does give you a negative to that recovery, but you can use something with charged with light as well, so it allows you 1 extra stack instead of something like this that gives you a few extra stacks. So those two, almost the same thing, just slightly different with that negative penalty. Now for our Warmind cells, we do have a couple that I use consistently with Global Reach, Burning Cells, Fire Team Medic, Wrath of Rasputin, and Rage of the Warmind. These 5 right here, they're all solar and all very good. Besides, Warmind cells over here in Global Reach is just a general one, so you don't need a burn on it, but it really increases that range of the burst of the Warmind cell. But these two specifically, in Wrath of Warmind and Rage of Warmind, pair wonderfully together, creating just perfect synergy with that Warmind cells. Next off right here is Powerful Friends, one because of its plus 22 mobility, and when we become charged with light, allies also become charged with light, so it's a very support role in this mod. And having that plus 20 mobility, you're able to get some nice juicy 300s if you can, maybe even a 400 build if you're really crazy with your armor. Now on top of that, we do have Radiant Light, which works very similarly. We have 20 to our strength that is increased when we have this on with another arc mod, and the super, we cause nearby allies to also become charged with light, so another little support role in that charged with light and just helping out your fellow guardians. But both of these having the ability to have that plus 20 on a stat is super nice for stacking up those stats to have some crazy triple 100 builds. Now on this page and the next one, we have our elemental well mods, which they are all super important in my opinion, depends on what you're going into. Now we do have a couple that are standing above the rest. Elemental Ordnance is one of those in my personal opinion, as well as Elemental Armaments and Phantom Light on this first page. All very good for giving us extra damage and creating a plentiful amount of elemental wells. Now, when we move on to the second page, these are really our S tier mods, especially like Elemental Time Dilation. So when we go to stack those Font of Might mods, we can't stack them normally, but with Elemental Time Dilation, you can have 4 other Font of Might mods on, which stack that time. You can get it up to like 25, 28 seconds on having that damage buff with Font of Might, or if you're using something else, Font of Wisdom, to give you that 100 intellect. It is a very S tier mod and definitely needed. Elemental Shards is also one of those S tier mods for stasis builds, because all of those stasis shards that you create by freezing targets and slowing them count as elemental wells, so you can use this to proc Phantom Might for something like your Reed's Regret and just absolutely juice damage on enemies. So really, all of the elemental well mods are super clutch. They didn't really come into play until more recently, maybe about a year ago, year and a half ago, but they are all super crazy, starting right here in the elemental charge. Very good for becoming charged with light, because we can create elemental wells super easy, and really all of these that we have are very, very, very good in my personal opinion, and use them over most of the other mods that we have. But like I said, specifically, Elemental Time Dilation for me is a go-to for stacking that damage. Bountiful Wells is also super nice for stacking stuff like Elemental Ordnance, so you can have 2-3 Elemental Ordnance on, and when you get 1 grenade defeat, you're popping like 5 Solar Elemental Wells with that like Fusion Grenade Starfire Protocol Warlock. So definitely super clutch of Bungie to release these to the masses. Me personally, I was only missing 1 legacy and 1 single mod right here, so not very helpful to me, but very helpful to the masses, and being able to use these crazy builds that we have all been creating for you guys for a while now. So hopefully this kind of gave you guys a little look into what I use and some of the banger mods that I think are S tier. So definitely be on the lookout for builds coming out, and thank you Bungie for such a banger release of all these mods to all of us. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.